Call to order, December 12th, 2019, meeting of the Indian River County Planning and Zoning Commission. First order of the business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business is, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? None? Okay. Next order of business, approval of minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Chip,
Second.
second by Dr. Day. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. Next item is an item on the consent agenda. North County Charter School parking expansion, request for administrative permit use approval for a parking lot expansion of the existing North County Charter School located at 6640 Old Dixie Highway. North County Charter School owner, Schilke Biddle-Stoddard LLC agent, zoning CL limited commercial, land use designation CI commercial industrial. Matters quasi judicial. Would anybody like to pull this from the consent agenda? Gentlemen? No? Anybody from the gallery would like to pull this from the consent agenda? Can I get a motion, please?
Move to approve with staff's recommendations.
Second.
Okay, approval by, motion by Dr. Day, second by Mr. Landers. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Next item, Florida Power and Light, Indian River County Service Center, request for major site plan approval for service center, including a two-story office building, a fleet service garage, 2 warehouses, a storm shelter, a 6,000-gallon fueling system, a data center, and truck stop supply building located on the west side of 98th Avenue North of 12th Street. Florida Power and Light Company is the owner. Kimberly Horn Associates, Inc. is the agent. Zoning IL, Light Industrial, land use designation CI Commercial Industrial. This matter is quasi judicial. Gentlemen, has anybody had any ex parte communications? None? I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Scott Rodriguez with the Planning Division. The item before you today is the Florida Power and Light's request for major site plan approval. The 37-acre subject site is located on the west side of 98th Avenue, north of 12th Street, currently vacant, and has a light industrial zoning designation. This is an aerial of the subject site and the surrounding area. This is a site aerial showing existing conditions. The overall site plan depicts the general layout of the proposed uses and site improvements. The project will be completed in 4 phases. Phase 1 will include the storm shelter, building, partial landscaping, and site improvements, partial 16th Street build-out, stormwater pond, required on-site lighting. In phase 2, the remaining perimeter landscaping and site improvements, staging areas, remaining 16th Street improvements and sidewalks, and 98th Avenue improvements and sidewalks, and the truck stock. And in phases 3 and 4, the remaining buildings and site improvements and on-site lighting. Access will be provided from 16th Street and 98th Avenue. There's a main driveway located on 16th Street for customers, and 2 secondary driveways that will be limited to employees, and a secondary driveway on 98th Avenue also limited to employees. Phase 1 includes the eastern 16th Street driveway, and the remaining driveways will be included in phase 2. Also, 98th Avenue will be improved from State Road 60 to the project site and will include additional pavement width and a southbound right turn lane at 16th Street. The stormwater pond located at the south half of the site will be part of the master stormwater system. The landscape plan includes type A perimeter buffers along the west and south parcel boundaries, and roadway buffers for 16th Street and 98th Avenue, interior parking, and non-vehicular landscaping. Wetland areas will be impacted, but no mitigation is required. And the stormwater landscape plans may be subphased with phase 1. This is a summary of the dedications and improvements. In phase 1, right-of-way dedications for 16th Street and 98th Avenue, and construction of a portion of 16th Street. In Phase 2, the remainder of 16th Street construction of 98th Avenue, 16th Street and 98th Avenue sidewalks, and on-site lighting in applicable phases. Staff is recommending to the Planning and Zoning Commission to grant major site plan approval with conditions stated in the staff report related to 16th Street and 98th Avenue right-of-way dedications, 16th Street and 98th Avenue improvements and construction, landscape improvements, which may be modified with phasing plan, and on-site lighting. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions of staff? None? Would anybody from the gallery like to come up and ask any questions? None. Sir.
The applicant.
That's anybody from the gallery, applicant would like to come forward and speak?
Good evening, John Rosenthal, Florida Power and Light, Corporate Real Estate. I'm just here to answer any further questions that the commissioners may have about the project. I would just want to touch on one point in the conditions and the staff information is that with respect to street lighting, there's no plans to put any street lighting along the project area. It's mostly site lighting. Is what we are referring to, is all the light fixtures, light poles that would be installed on the property. And the other piece would be is with the phasing approach with the perimeter buffer line. We were working with staff to look at that as a staff adjustment for it to be tied to the completion of Phase 2. We're very interested in getting Phase 1, a storm shelter and access and opportunity to occupy the structure as quickly as possible. It's a 40-acre site. It will take some time to build it out, but we're also very interested in being in a good position to occupy a structure, occupy the space in the 2020 storm season. So we're just trying to look at how we can improve as much as we can, as quickly as we can, and be in a position to stage and to be in a position to respond if a storm would arise in 2020. And that's all I have, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions?
Yeah, so for staff, under your recommendations, 2D, it's install the required street lighting improvements. Are you at odds on this?
We are not.
Okay.
We've discussed it as a matter of terminology and semantics. When we say street lighting, it is meant to be site lighting,
Okay.
the lighting that'll be on the project site.
Yeah, when I think of street lights, I think of the lights along 27th Avenue, but that's not what you're talking about here.
It's not, yes, correct. So it's a matter of semantics in that respect. And then also with the landscape phasing, we expect that there'll be an administrative approval to phase the landscaping and also probably the stormwater as well, in an effort to get that Phase 1 done, which is their priority for the storm season. So we're certainly in sync with the applicant in those items.
Good.
Question, please. Currently, is there any street lighting along the 98th Avenue section?
I am not aware of any street lighting along 98. I think there is some site lighting further to the north at one of the commercial facilities, parking lot lighting essentially. I'm not aware of any street lighting, but.
Any further questions? None? I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, it just dawned on me, I should disclose what I've disclosed in the past on FP&L matters, that back in 1986, my brother was killed in an accident, and I was his personal representative. We ended up suing Florida Power and Light. We settled that case in the 1990s, and at this point, I do not believe I retain any animosity towards FP&L, but I forgot to disclose that earlier.
Gentlemen, can I have a motion, please?
Move to approve with staff's recommendations.
Approved by Dr. Day,
Second?
seconded by Jordan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Votes unanimous. Yes, sir. Next order of business is a public hearing. Mandela Village, PDTND, a request to rezone approximately 79.1 acres from A1 agricultural, 1 unit per 5 acres, and RS3 single family, up to 3 units per acre, to a PDTND, Planned Development Traditional Neighborhood Design, and to obtain a conceptual PD plan for approval for the project to be known as Mandela Village. The project's proposed 88 single-family units, 111 multifamily units, a 100-room hotel, a neighborhood commercial area, a community center, and a recreation center, common areas and amenities, located at the northwest corner of 58th Avenue and 53rd Street intersection, Mandela Village LLC owner, Knight, McGuire and Associates, agent, zoning A1 agricultural, 1 unit per 5 acres, and RS3 residential single family, up to 3 units per acre. Land use designation AG1, agricultural 1, up to 1 unit per 5 acres, and L1, low density residential, up to 3 units per acre. And the density is 2.52. This matter is quasi judicial, so gentlemen, has anyone had any ex parte communications? None? At this time, anybody would like to speak on this matter, please stand up to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
At this time, I'll turn it over to staff for their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. For the record, I'm Ryan Sweeney, Senior Planner with the County Community Development Department. Tonight we have a request for a PD rezoning and conceptual PD plan for the Mandela Village Plan Development Project. A brief slide to remind you all of the plan development rezoning process. Tonight, the applicant is requesting step 1, which is the PD rezoning and conceptual PD plan approval. The Planning and Zoning Commission is to make a recommendation to the board, and ultimately it's the board's decision for approval. The second step is the preliminary PD plan plat that would come back to you all, so, most likely in phases for this project. Then there is a land development permit or land development permit waiver that is reviewed and approved by staff through Public Works for each phase. And lastly, a final PD plat, which is again approved by the board. The project site is located at the northwest corner of 58th Avenue and 53rd Street, and it is south of the North Relief Canal. It's just west of Waterway Village, and just north of the Providence Point PDT&D, which is not built, it's vacant. Here's an aerial depicting the existing conditions of the subject site. It's a former citrus grove. Again, North Relief Canal to the north, 58th Avenue to the east, and 53rd Street to the south. The proposed development is approximately 79 acres after right-of-way dedications, and it does propose a traditional neighborhood design, which we'll talk a little bit more later in this presentation. It proposes a total of 88 single-family units, 111 multifamily units, a 100-room resort hotel, a limited commercial area, a lakeside amphitheater, and a number of different open spaces, common areas, and a clubhouse recreation area. The conceptual PD plan shows the conceptual layout for the overall project. Generally, the hotel and commercial area are oriented towards 58th Avenue and 53rd Street. Then we have a sort of town community center with a wellness center, yoga, spa, meditation. Then it transitions into multifamily, some smaller multifamily triplex, single-family cottage-style homes, which are clustered together. And then as you move further west, the estate-style single-family lots, and really only the estate-style single-family lots are west of the urban service area line. So through the PD process, the project will apply for and obtain PD waivers for certain zoning criteria, and the PD waiver table that's included in staff's report and here on this slide compares the proposed PD district to the zoning districts that the site's currently zoned RS3 and A1 for comparison purposes. Also, it's important to note that the multifamily and commercial areas will be individually site planned through preliminary PD, so these are more just applicable to the single-family home portions of the project. The overall traffic circulation plan includes a modified grid system throughout the project, highlighted in green, as well as a total of 4 different driveway connections to 53rd Street.
a right-in, right-out driveway connection that would serve the limited commercial area, a full movement driveway connection, which is the primary driveway entrance for the overall project site, includes an ingress lane and dual egress, so you can make a left or through movement or a right turn movement. A single one-way exit only driveway connection that serves the multifamily and cottage style lots. And then lastly, a secondary stabilized emergency access that would serve the single-family estate area if for some reason traffic would break down here at the midpoint. The emergency service could access this area as well. So there's a number of dedications and improvements required for this project, including right-of-way dedication for 53rd Street, road paving and improvements for 53rd Street, turn lanes for 53rd Street. The project is, through the PD process, has agreed to accept drainage into the project stormwater system for the 53rd Street paving and improvements, as well as a 53rd Street sidewalk along the project frontage. There's also a requirement for right-of-way dedication for 58th Avenue and sidewalks along 58th Avenue. An internal pedestrian system throughout the project. Street lighting, which again is really, in this case, is street lighting along the internal streets, as well as site lighting in the commercial areas. And green space and recreation area requirements. I didn't prepare a whole separate environmental slide, but in the environmental section of the staff's report, there is one sort of environmental condition that on the Providence Point project to the south of 53rd Street, there's a bald eagle's nest. And the only real impact that it has on this project is the small portion of the project site is within the 660-foot buffer area, which limits essentially outside construction during nesting season, but it's only a very small portion of the site. And then lastly, a majority of these conditions and improvements could be further defined as far as timing and what the final sort of determinations are through an optional developers agreement, which may be pursued after conceptual PD and rezoning. That would ultimately be negotiated between the developer, Public Works, and eventually approved through the board. The landscape and buffering plan requires a 50-foot wide type A buffer along the west project boundary and the north project boundary that's outside the urban service area. And the remainder of the project is a 25-foot type B or PD buffer along all other project perimeters. The public benefits that are over and above a typical subdivision that this project offers is a significant amount of right-of-way dedication for 53rd Street. It's actually a total of 120 feet. Again, the project has agreed to accept drainage for the 53rd Street improvements into the project stormwater system. Provides public access and limited commercial areas that would serve not only the project but the surrounding residential developments like Waterway Village and Vera Lago. And there is a lakeside amphitheater proposed that would be open to the public during limited public events. Also, again, mentioned, the project is designed to be a traditional neighborhood design, and there are extensive number of criteria. I think it's a total of 21 criteria that staff has reviewed and confirmed the project does meet. It's about 3 pages worth of your staff report, but the project does meet all of the traditional neighborhood or T&D criteria. And with that, staff's recommendation is that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to approve the PD rezoning and conceptual PD plan for Mandela Village with conditions listed in staff's report for 53rd Street design and improvements, right-of-way for 53rd Street and 58th Avenue, 53rd Street and 58th Avenue sidewalks, drainage for 53rd Street improvements, final design and location of the transit stop, final landscape, street lighting, and tree protection mitigation plans with each preliminary PD plan. And again, there's an option for a number of these items to be further defined through a developer's agreement that may be pursued by the developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Question.
Please.
Talk to me about this hotel. First of all, how many stories is it proposed to be?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Alan, we really didn't get into the architectural building design at the conceptual level. It can't be more than 3 because that's generally our height requirement. With 35 feet, you really can't do more than 3. I suspect to get to the 100 room, they probably would have to be at least a portion of 2 to 3 stories.
Explain to me how that's compatible with the existing uses in that area, the hotel piece.
Sure, Mr. Chair, Alan, again, it's part of the T&D overall project that's not only meant to serve the project, but the greater area. There's no hotels, I think, within a few miles of that area, so anyone that has guests in that area has to stay either on 60 out by 95 or over on the beach or downtown.
But you're telling me why there's a need for it or use for it, but how is it compatible with the existing residential development there?
Within the project or on the outside of the project?
Well, the surrounding area. Whenever we do a rezoning, we're always asked to look at compatibility with the surrounding area. And when you look at whatever is 902.12, which comes up in the next rezoning agenda issue, that's described as whether or not the proposed amendment is consistent with existing and proposed land uses, or whether it would result in an orderly and logical development pattern in that area.
Sure.
And I know that area, and I don't see anything that is consistent or compatible with a 3-story, 100-room hotel.
Sure. Mr. Chair, Allen, one big key component is the PD buffering and the increased setbacks that are provided. Another thing is a lot of those additional site-related design criteria will be further hashed out during the preliminary PD process. Right now, it's a box on a plan. So we have a number of controls that we can put into place to ensure the compatibility is truly compatible, whether it be height controls and design orientation and location within the project. But we don't know the final detail. Like I said, I don't even know the true, if 3 stories, 2 stories.
Is the concept of a mixed residential and commercial plan development, particularly when it's primarily residential, that the commercial basically exists to serve that residential component in the plan development?
And the immediate area. Well, I mean, for example, even Point West by itself, which is also a T&D, well, the commercial hasn't even been built because the commercial by itself, all the 1,000 rooftops or however many in Point West, still aren't enough to support the commercial. So it does have to serve the surrounding area as well. So the short answer is no. It's not limited to just the residents within that project. It would never get off the ground.
This came forward as a standalone hotel, not part of a plan development. Do you see any way that staff would support a rezoning to have a standalone hotel in that area?
It would require a land use change. There would be a number of comp plan policies, whether there becomes a 53rd Street, 58th node. So the short answer is no. On its face, just a hotel by itself, no. You would have to go through land use changes and rezonings and a number of other things to allow for that to happen as a standalone or one-off project.
Okay.
Any further questions of staff?
Question regarding the community to the south, wasn't that also designed with a hotel?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Mr. Landers. Yeah, it was by and large very similar with the mix of uses and the types of uses. It's a much larger project. It's 400 something units, but yes, it did have a hotel. It had a larger commercial area. I think 70,000 square feet of commercial area. So it is a larger project, but yeah, it had the similar mix of uses, and it did also orient those same types of uses towards the 58th and 53rd Street intersection.
And I'm sorry, which project was that?
Providence Point.
I just didn't hear it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
Are there any planned developments currently built in the county that have a hotel associated with them?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Galt, John, does brevity is or kind of a
John McCoy with the County Planning Department. I am not aware of any that have a hotel component. Point West, in its inception and through the conceptual plan, did have an allowance for a lodging facility that was never constructed. It does have an ALF component, which again is not a lodging type of use. So Again, the short answer is no, we don't have one. We have had several approved with them, but none built.
Any further questions?
Just one separate question. And I can't remember if we did this on at some other meeting on another project, but planned developments, have we started putting time limits on the implementation or construction of this? Such that, I mean, after 10 years or 15 years or something, that planned development zoning expires and it reverts back to what it was?
John McCoy for the Planning Department. Short answer, once again, yes, we have, under certain circumstances, some plan developments, and again, not necessarily traditional plan developments, but just plan developments in general. Some have had sunset provisions, others have not. Others have been an open-ended approval where the conceptual plan runs with the land until somebody comes in to actually change that plan. We haven't discussed a sunset or reverter with this particular plan development, but we have a number of others in the county, both traditional plan developments and just standard plan developments that do have sunset or reverter clauses in them. We've also structured other, at times, especially during the boom, other timing conditions where, say, the developer had to construct the clubhouse and amenity package prior to a certain number of residential units being constructed to make sure those amenity packages occurred under certain circumstances. And again, that was more likely during the real estate bubble and boom of, say, the mid-2000s, mid-early 2000s.
Any further questions?
I have one question as staff. Either John or Ryan, the Residence Inn off of Indian River Boulevard right by the Grand Harbor development, how did that come in as a site plan? Because that's real close to single-family and multifamily residential stuff. As far as the compatibility issue, I was thinking, I don't know how that came into being, if it was just a site plan or not. I don't remember.
The
It's commercial zoning.
it's
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Bill, it's, there was several commercial components of the overall Grand Harbor, and that's actually a commercial zoning.
Okay,
Butted up against the multifamily portion.
thanks.
Any further questions? None at this time. I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to come forward, please do. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Richard Bialowski. I'm one of the developers and the architect of the project. I'm here to answer questions, but I'd also like to walk you through a brief presentation. Bruce advised me to just shut up and let everybody go home, but there's an awful lot of thought that's gone into this project, and hopefully, it has the value of maybe informing you as you look at future projects. I sometimes wonder if you all get tired of looking at the same project over and over again on different properties, and this is an opportunity to see something different. Back in 2008, there was a evaluation and appraisal report for Indian River County Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Element that kind of introduced the TND ordinance, and it talked about the appearance of single-family residences and developments. Often new single-family subdivisions exhibit a monotony or lack of variation in residential architecture, and it went on to elaborate on that and ultimately introduced the TND as an alternative to that. Now, TNDs are born of new urbanism. We always like to say that there are two really serious problems with new urbanism in Indian River County. One is new and the other is urban. But other than that, I think that there are some principles that aren't embodied in the typical subdivision. We've worked hard to embody them. There's a lot of thinking that's gone into this, a lot of caring, a desire to kind of change the pattern, the paradigm for how we develop residentially, that hopefully will have some meaning for the future. You can see the site on here. Because the hotel came up from Commissioner Polakowicz, the hotel is very far back from the street to begin with. That's not a use-related thing, but a visual. It's over 350 feet from from 58th Avenue and something like 250 feet from 53rd with significant buffers. So and water bodies between the two. I mean, you know, most subdivisions you see, you have the lakes with all the homes around them. We have positioned the lakes on this project to be able to be used as a public amenity. There's a 1.1 mile walking trail park course that goes around that lake that is actually open to the public. They can access it from the small shopping area. So, you know, it's very well buffered. We call it the first inland resort in Indian River County. You know, excuse me, you know, but there may be some long-term viability issues one of these days with oceanfront resorts, who knows, but we think there's a reason. We have, one of the advantages to the community, this community, of providing a hotel is we can provide certain amenities that are used by the residents, but we couldn't afford to provide otherwise. If you see immediately to the east of the hotel, there's a blue body of water that's a little different color than the retention ponds, and that's a sand bottom swimming lagoon. So we brought a little bit of beach to the project. We have tennis. We have we actually had 2 tennis courts, and then as we were going, I learned about pickleball, and I axed one, and we added 2 pickleball courts. I still yet to play it, but everybody says that was a good move. You know, we also have good proximity to the Sandridge Golf Course, and ultimately 53rd Street, and I don't know, you know, my lifetime or your grandchildren's lifetime, but ultimately 53rd Street will connect through to I-95, I-95, and hopefully on to Fellsmere, and this will be a node of the county. So, you know, in terms of traffic and location, we think it's a great location. Yes, we can do it because it's a TND. It wasn't zoned commercially, and I remind you what staff said about the hotel being provided in the Providence Point to the south of us. In fact, the concept of that project was essentially a horizontal hotel. It was based on short-term occupancy, short-term rentals, seasonal rentals. So, you know, we're consistent with that. It's a discussion that's taken place already. So I just want to walk you through the project, the entry, and I'm going to try to be as quick as I can. The site plan, it's based on connectivity and walkability and creating small parks, sort of like Savannah, Georgia, where instead of grouping homes around lakes that people don't really walk around, there are gathering places. You know, there's open space, and then there's open space. And the definition, the new urbanist definition of real usable open space is gathering space. And gathering space is space that's bounded on at least 3 sides. So there are places for people to stop, walk. You'll see in a minute the connecting paths. Ryan showed you the pedestrian connections, but I'm going to show you here. And I'm going to compare this. This is just one subdivision we had some drawings of, which was Antilles, which is a nice subdivision. But if you compare the amount of open space, which is that dark green in Antilles, to the actual usable open space in our development, and then the passive recreation space, in the way we've put this together, you can see it's rather extensive. And then those purple or magenta paths are all mid-block walking paths. So we are promoting walkability as one of the key elements of this development. Emphasis on walkability, parks and trails, nature amenities, formal and informal gathering spaces. We've designed this as a village with many different types of housing rather than a subdivision that's just homogeneous in terms of demographic and price point and square footage. We're emphasizing energy efficiency. We hope that this will be net zero, if not at least net zero ready. I would actually contend that that was of public benefit, but it didn't make the list. Solar thermal air conditioning, which we've done before. Electric car charging stations sounds like a little thing. It's a big deal in terms of providing the power for predominantly electric vehicles, which we think are the future. Resilient design considerations, and predominantly native Florida landscaping, which I could give you an hour lecture on, but I certainly won't. We think that's a very important thing. We think that is a public benefit in terms lagoon, pesticides, and everything else. And we will have a best management practice as part of our CCNRs. We didn't submit it as part of the project because there's no box to check for submitting it, but it's part of our commitment to do what we plan to do. And a major emphasis on wellness, which is part of why we have the hotel. We have provided a holistic wellness center in this development. It only works if there can be more than the residents who come to use it. So the hotel feeds that, that feeds the community. We have a holistic wellness spa and an athletic performance venue, a place for meditation and yoga, and our intention with the small commercial center is to have a market, a small market, the corner store that's essentially a health food market, because all the green things that we're offering in this project are the kind of people who are going to want to shop and have that shopping opportunity. And then, of course, the tennis and the swimming and the walking trails as amenities. Visually, I'll do this as quick as I can. The market square, a view of the market square. One thing you can see is there's a lot of open public space in that. We can have farmers markets there on a regular basis. We can have gathering events. You can access it from the clubhouse, the village hall, by kayak if you want. The hotel is a 3-story hotel. This is very preliminary. This is not necessarily the hotel. I have to kind of figure out what it takes to do 100 rooms, what size box it is, and hopefully it'll be something that we have conferences and based on wellness in particular. The Village Hall and the Performance Island. See the Village Hall building provides a swimming pool for homes that are the smaller homes that don't have their own. The Performance Island is basically for small acoustic concerts that serve the community and serve the greater community. And by the way, going back to the commercial center, the catchment area within about a 3/4 of a mile of that center is a very large population. It's the size of a small town, believe it or not. So hopefully that will keep some traffic from going to other commercial nodes at 53rd and State Road 60. Town center and multifamily, and you'll get a sense of the variety of homes we have. In the town center, we have the meditation pavilion with a meditation garden, a wellness center. We have different multifamily units. We have some small apartments over offices. We have different size condo units. The townhomes and cottages. We have triplex townhomes that allow us to have 2/3 end units and ground floor bedrooms. And then we have a product that is interesting to us, how much interest there is in this. These are small detached cottages, maybe 900 to 1,200 square feet, grouped around courtyards. It's a surprisingly large percentage of the households in the U.S. are 1- and 2-person households. And we kind of threw this out originally to see what would happen. We've had tremendous response to this particular concept of housing. And in these little courtyards, I mean, it's not landscaped out. It could be a patio with a pergola. It could be vegetable gardens. Could be a lot of things. The native Florida landscaping is, I unfortunately don't have bitmaps for native Florida landscaping, so it may look a little conventional. And then the single-family homes, and there's a variety. I mean, architecturally, they're consistent with general, hopefully good quality design in Indian River County. We're not trying to do anything unusual in that respect. So, that's what we're doing. We're trying to do something that's unique. It's something we believe in. We've put a lot of time and a lot of thought into this. It's not the average project, but I think in the long run, these considerations of walkability, reducing car dependence, non-toxic building materials, mixed use are things that we need to be looking at, and you can't. Our marketing gurus some years ago told us that most developers market by looking in the rearview mirror. And my own sense is there are enough risks in this world right now that you better be looking forward, and you better be thinking about how to deal with the future. There's an awful lot of disruptive technology coming our way, so it's not easy to do, but it can't be approached without conscious effort. So other than that, I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have, or come back if the public has any questions.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, do you have any questions? No?
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward and speak?
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. County Attorney, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joseph Paladin. I'm the president of Black Swan Consulting and Entitlement Corporation. I've also been a builder and a developer here in the county for 20 years. I'm a member of the Indian River Neighborhood Association Advisory Board, and I had the privilege of seeing this presentation yesterday from Mr. Bialowski with some of my other board members. At the Indian River Neighborhood Association, we basically have a motto. We say we control growth through quality, not quantity. In my professional opinion, I think this is a quality development. As a rule, we don't step out and support a particular development, but I think anybody goes above and beyond to do a development of this magnitude and a development of this quality. I personally wanted to step forward and support this project. So I support this project. I've built a lot of developments. I've seen a lot of developments. I think they've gone far and beyond normal or average to do something special. I think this is a special development, and I would say that you definitely should approve this development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Thomas Lewis, and I reside at 6420 53rd Street, which is at the western boundary of this project. So I do have some concerns. Don't get me wrong, I have no problem with progress. It looks like a very nice community. But my first concern really is going to have to be handled by my attorney, but I want you guys to be aware of it, okay? My house is a 10-acre equestrian estate. Very nice place. I have a lot of money invested in it, okay? It sits back about 200 feet from the road, and I understand another 120 feet will have to be required right away. So that'll put the highway basically in my front yard. So my concern is basically based on value, because it basically will render my house unmarketable. Nobody's going to want a 10-acre equestrian estate on a highway with a front yard, in the front yard. So my attorney will handle that. I don't expect anybody to comment on it, but I just want you guys to be aware of that. Okay? Go ahead.
No, please.
Yeah, my second concern is relative to infrastructure. The little bridge at the intersection of 66th Avenue and 53rd Street is very narrow and only allows one vehicle to pass at a time. My concern is once they pave that 53rd Street, it's going to create a lot more traffic, and it's going to create a bottleneck, and safety issues as well. So that's another concern I have.
Is there anything in here that will address that?
Mr. Chair, at the risk of going beyond my area of expertise, I do believe that the bridge crossing and intersection at 66 is part of the 66 widening, the next leg of 66 widening, that's being in current, I believe, in design by the county. John, I don't know if you want to weigh in any more than that, or Bill.
Yeah, design of 66th Avenue at 53rd Street is complete. I mean, it's set for construction in the next 18 months.
It includes improvements to that bridge crossing, I'm fairly certain.
So basically, the bridge building will coincide with paving of the road?
With 66th Avenue.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, what about paving of 53rd Street? Because that's when the traffic is going to accelerate.
53rd Street is going to be controlled by a developer's agreement between the county and the developer. The developer is required to go so far, and the county is going to pick up the remainder of 53rd Avenue to 66th Avenue.
Okay.
Or 53rd Street to 66th Avenue, I'm sorry.
So the county is going to pave the rest of it?
We are going to, yes, if there are other developments that would come in that would be impacting that stretch, they would be required to contribute. But as far as the county's planning, 53rd is made to be a connection between 58th and 66th.
My understanding is the paving will end at the end of this project.
Correct.
And there's a 2,000 feet of dirt road left that needs to be paved.
Correct.
Correct, and John McCoy with the County Planning Department. So sort of to reconcile the two different ends of it, at the 66th end, the bridge will be replaced and widened with the 66th Avenue construction. And that'll happen in the much more near term, as Bill's saying, construction probably within the next 18 months. So the west end's gonna happen quicker. This project, timing-wise, still has quite a ways to go. It's gonna go through the conceptual, if it's approved at the conceptual level, then goes to a preliminary level, developers agreement, land development permit. So this is gonna be behind the 66th Avenue construction. And as we're talking about, the paving will only go, as the developers required, to the west end of the subject site, although they may enter into a developer's agreement with the county, and that's where things become a little less certain about the timing, is if there's other development, other timing issues that may, in essence, either accelerate the completion of 53rd Avenue, or again, that timing is less unclear and more distant in the future. So that's just from a timing perspective, and sort of those three pieces of the puzzle. The east end, the west end, and the center, so to speak.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Bill.
Welcome.
Please continue.
Yeah, my last concern is basically economic. I'm just wondering why they're investing all this into a project at this late in the real estate cycle. I just have concerns about that. Remember last recession, we had all these developments, all there was just roads and no homes there.
Their choice, their risk.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, thank you.
Doctor. Would anybody else like to come forward, please? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Norman Nierenberg, 5039 Pendleton Square. A couple of questions. One is, how do you notify people in the surrounding area? Is there a mail out 1,200 feet, 1,500 feet from the subject of rezoning? Well, there's no mail out.
Sure, Mr. Chair. Sir, it's 300 feet, but that does pick up the association. So, for example, Waterway to the east, it did copy the Property Owners Association or associations. A lot of times there's several, but the individual lot owners would only receive mailing within 300 feet.
Suggestion maybe you ought to consider it, since there's so much big acreage, 300 feet was like one property owner, and nobody gets notice. The other question I have is on the commercial side. How big is it going to be?
Give me 1 second, thank you. The commercial area commercial area within the project is, I believe it is 3.4% of the project. I want to say, without looking at the plan, it's only a few acres of the overall project, but it's limited. Per the PD T&D criteria, it's no more than 10%, and based on staff's report, it's 3.4% of the total project area.
It's saying here 2.68 acres.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Good catch, Commissioner.
My pleasure.
Is there any limit on how late a store could be open? Is it a 24-hour? Is there a preclusion for a gas station?
Mr. Chair, sir, so there's a convenience store or gas station would not be allowed as a limited commercial use. So no, we do not have hours of operation limitations just on a county-wide basis. There are limitations on alcohol sales, I believe, but just normal hours of operation for a market, if you will, we do not have hours of operation limitations in place. They could be imposed through the PD criteria.
Are there any plans to 4-lane 58th Avenue by the project? Also a traffic light, and also fixing the blinker that's on 49th Street?
Yes, there are. 58th Avenue is going to be 4-laned, starting at 47th Street and extending to 57th Street at the Vero Lago Bent Pine entrance.
Okay. And we're taking care of the blinking light on 49th Street. Is there a traffic light going to be there, or a traffic?
Yes.
Yes. There'll be a traffic signal there with the intersection
That it's going to
improvements.
become a signalized intersection.
That's not part of this project, just to be clear. That's already in motion that was triggered by Waterway
Which
Village.
is the 58th Avenue traffic light or the blinking light on 49th Street?
All of the 58th improvements are in motion and are well in advance of this project. Those were by and large triggered by Vira-Lago and Waterway Village.
Okay, and the residential development, are they condos or rentals for the multifamily?
So the again, we don't know ownership at this point because it's conceptual, but the small cottage lots would be what's called plat over, so they would be fee simple parcels, as well as the estate lots. Multifamily could be condoed, or it could be retained under ownership for rental purposes. That's not something that we really can control through the process.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak? None? At this point, I'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen, any further questions of staff?
A couple questions, please.
Please, Chip.
One of my concerns is the road situation out there. Is regarding 58th Avenue, Kings Highway, what's the timetable on that?
The timetable on that is we are at 90% plans as far as engineering is concerned. We have two parcels of right-of-way that we need to acquire, and I would have to think that we would be close to acquiring all the needed right-of-way by the end of February. So by the time we get the right-of-way needed and the 100% plans in from Kimley Horn, we'll be ready to go. That will be constructed by the Waterway Village folks. Again, we're in a developer's agreement where they're required to go from 47th to 53rd. The county is going to go ahead and pick up the rest from 53rd to 57th as far as the improvements there for 58th Avenue.
That includes the bridge crossing over the North Relief Canal. That's, the county wanted to piggyback on that.
That's correct.
So again, the timing would be a year from now, 2 years from now?
I think that closer to a year than 2 years.
Okay. And then the expansion of 66th Avenue and the bridge, what's the time frame on that?
Again, I think that's like an 18-month type of time frame. The plans are 100%. The right-of-way acquisition on that project is a little bit further behind the planning of it. So at every stage on 66th Avenue, you're going to see a bridge replacement at 49th, 53rd, I think 57th is okay, 61st, 65th, all the way on up the line.
Okay. Regarding that, when it is done at 53rd Street and they replace the bridge, how far to the east will there be any paving by the county?
Typically to the east, we will go 500 feet to the east. On both sides of the intersection, we will go try and go 500 feet on each side. That's necessary to catch the new slope that's necessary because the bridges are going to be raised from their current conditions. If you take a look at the first part of 66th Avenue from from 26th up to 49th, where it starts to go down there. If you take a look at the bridge at 45th Street, that gives you a good idea of what the bridges are going to look like in the second phase from 49th to 65th, 69th Street, somewhere in there.
Well, addressing one of the concerns from the doctor, potentially at this point, we would only be looking at the 500 feet to the east. And then if and when this project comes into play, there would be from 58th to the west.
And yes, and that's why I mentioned part of the developer's agreement as well. If Providence Bay would come in, obviously they would also impact 53rd. They would be required to contribute to the pavement of 53rd. You know, the county understands as far as that it's much cheaper to do the project once and instead of going and taking that second bite at the apple. You know, it'd be easier, just like you see as far as Waterway Village. 53rd is 4-laned all the way down. Did it need to be 4-laned all the way down? No, it could have been done in parts as Waterway Village developed, but that doesn't make for very good planning or very good traffic control. So it was all done in one fell swoop from US 1 to 58th Avenue.
And again, addressing the question or concern is there's that gap between what happens between the western edge of this proposed piece and the 500 feet.
That's correct, and that's where the developer's agreement would come into play. If the county sees a need, and which I would have to think it does, I'm not speaking for the Public Works Director, but in the past, the Board of County Commissioners has used, I think, good foresight in going ahead and paving the rest of the way and making traffic better in the county.
Okay, and would they temporarily put millings down or something like that while they're waiting on the rest of the project? Or
No, it'd be a roadway.
Okay.
Any further questions? None? Can I have a motion, gentlemen?
A motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion to approve by Jordan with staff recommendations.
Second.
Second by Dr. Day. All in favor?
Oh, excuse me, could we have discussion on that?
Apologize, discussion.
I will vote against the motion. And I have to say, I like the project. I like everything about the project, except the 3-story, 100-room hotel. I don't think it's compatible with that area. I realize that Providence Point apparently planned for a hotel. Whether that will ever be built remains to be seen. But frankly, if we get a hotel or 2 hotels out there, I think you just have to admit it's going to become a commercial area around that intersection. And I don't think that that's consistent with what is right now a pure residential neighborhood. And it was mentioned by the developer that, well, the hotel's needed because you'll have guests using the wellness center. And I can understand that, but I can't imagine you need 100 rooms to board the guests of the wellness center. I don't have a problem necessarily with some type of lodging for those specific uses, but I think a 100-room hotel is simply a hotel. And I think there's no other pathway in our zoning code that would allow it. Existing zoning, of course, does not allow it. Any proposed, we'd have to completely rezone it to commercial, which apparently doesn't want to happen. There is such a notion that we have out there, which is neighborhood commercial district or zoning, which to me is somewhat close to this because this is a traditional neighborhood design plan development. And that neighborhood commercial zoning does not allow hotels. So, you know, I could see something on a small scale serving the development and its commercial wellness center. But I can't see a full-blown hotel out there. I think it'll change the character of that whole area, which is currently residential. So that's my view.
Blackwich, any further discussion?
Additional discussion, and forgive me if I didn't ask the question appropriately in time, but is there a phasing as far as the hotel construction? They can do it first phase, second phase, whenever?
Can I answer the question outside of with the motion being in place?
Would it be proper for me to ask the applicant to answer his question?
Yes, that's fine.
Could the applicant please come forward?
First of all, I just want to say that the development is not a Trojan horse for the hotel. The hotel is an integral part of the development. So in terms of phasing, you know, we would like to proceed with as much as we possibly can in the first phase, and we will need some residential development in the first phase to justify the commercial and the hotel. We really aren't that far along in our thinking to say, you know, to give you probably as clear an answer as you'd really like to have, but our intention certainly isn't to wait and have it be the very last thing or anything like that, because it provides certain recreational amenities that then boost the residential community. So, you know, I apologize if that's not the best answer or clearest answer you might like, but I think that's what I could say at this point.
Anything further, Chip?
Anyone, while I'm here, anyone else? Thanks.
And then for staff, do we have an aerial that shows the property to the west?
Not that far, unfortunately. I only have a zoomed-in aerial. Immediately to the west is an 18-acre vacant piece. The property owner that spoke, I believe, is beyond the 18-acre. Yeah. So there's two roughly 10-acre single-family homes immediately west of that, but there's an 18-acre piece that's vacant, that's in between this project site and the two home sites.
And as I understand, going through code and so forth, the area that's outside of the urban service area currently as part of the project, would that allow the parcels to the west of that to then, who are outside of the urban service area, to come in and do something a little more dense?
No, only if it was part of the portion that is inside the urban service area. So once you're completely outside the urban service area, you're no longer.
Any further discussion?
Two other points. Where the county owns 18 acres of property someplace in this location, is it abutting this parcel?
It's out all the way at the corner of 66 and.
I thought so. All right. And my second point is just reminding the board, this is preliminary. Yeah. It's not set in stone, so it's a preliminary thing, and things may change.
It's not even, it's conceptual, it's not even preliminary.
Thank you.
There's actually a preliminary to come after this, and then even more details.
Any further discussion? Okay, at this time, I have a motion by Mr. Stewart with staff recommendations, seconded by Dr. Day. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, all in favor, except for Dr., or, I'm sorry. Well, you're Juris Doctors. All right, so anyway, next order of business is CMEX Construction Materials Florida LLC request to rezone plus or minus 6.13 acres of AG1 to IG plus or minus 15.85 acres from A1 to CH and plus or minus 4.7 acres from IG to CG. This matter is a public hearing, so gentlemen, just gonna ask everybody, anybody have any ex parte communications? None? Okay, great. Turn it over to staff. Matter of fact, I apologize. Anybody who'd like to speak, please stand up and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
This time I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chairman Brognano. For the record, my name is Bill Shute, Chief of Long Range Planning for Indian River County Community Development Department. And as you stated, and I might just elaborate more because we had a real short summary there in the way I typed it up. I'm looking at it, but the request is to change property from A1 Agricultural 1 up to 5 units per acre to IG General Industrial. And there's 3 properties. There's a second property that's proposed to change from A1 up to 5 units per acre, Agricultural 1, to CH Heavy Commercial, and IG, the third property, IG General Industrial, to CG Commercial General. Now the location of the subject properties, they're located on the north side of 53rd Street, so not too distant from the project that you were just reviewing, but closer to the Old Dixie Highway and FEC railroad tracks, US Highway 1. And to the north of the subject properties, we have Hawks Nest Golf Course. We also have North Relief Canal. Subject property 1, we have 3 labels on there. So subject property 1 is the easternmost parcel, and it's plus or minus 6.13 acres. And that's the one that's proposed to go from A1 Agricultural 1 to IG. That directly includes part of the CMEX operation facility for ready-mix concrete. The center property is property 2, plus or minus 15.85 acres from A1 to CH. And the westernmost property is property number 3, which is plus or minus 4.78 acres, which is proposed to go from IG to CG. And that borders the lateral H canal And there's wooded area that's all part of conservation land to the west. That's part of the overall Waterway Village development. Now to the south, you also have Titan ready-mix concrete, and you also have remnants of an old sand mining operation. And I should also add that the subject properties are part of an old sand mining operation, which is the former Jenkins sand mine. Now, the purpose of the request is to secure the zoning necessary to develop the sites with uses that are allowed under the IG, CH, and CG zoning districts. Uses under, let me point out, uses under any commercial or industrial zoning district, they're all subject to other corridor special development regulations. So those typically deal with, and I think I have a slide later on, but they deal with site lighting, additional landscape requirements along roadways and so forth to make them more compatible with the road frontages. Now, the A1 zoning district, the purpose, in this case, you know, we've run across this some before, and even one in the past year or so, we came before the Planning and Zoning Commission. You have some of these A1 zone properties that are within the urban service area and developed or developing area. And these are really just remnants from the old zoning districts. The county has not actively gone out and tried to rezone them on the county's behalf, but they're served as a holding zone until the property owner, based on market conditions, requests a zoning consistent with the property's land use designation. So the IG district, that allows uses such as, and I have attached different tables to the staff report and as attachments, and they, you know, go over multiple pages, just trying to hit some of the high points. Some allowed uses include mulch products and services, kennels and animal boarding places, landscape services, veterinary services, contractors. Some of these you might not think would be in an industrial general, so I'm pointing those out as well. But then you have general automotive repair, welding, manufacturing, storage, and transportation services. Covers a wide range of uses. The CH zoning district allows uses such as kennels and animal boarding. So that's kind of, and that's also later on in CG too, so that one hits all three. Pet grooming, landscape services, general building contractors, special trade contractors, construction yards, small-scale banks and credit institutions, dry cleaning plants, crematoriums, credit reporting and collection, vehicle sales, repair services, health and fitness centers, convenience stores, storage and warehousing, whole range of uses. That's the main point here. CG zoning allows uses, here you see banks and credit unions again. This time it opens up to various office uses, various health and medical uses, laundromats, beauty shops, general auto repair, car washes, health and fitness centers, vet clinics, kennels and animal boarding places, used vehicle sales, boat sales, rental, business services, and personal services, to name a few. So here's that one slide I referred to earlier. The other corridor special development regulations. So you deal with, along the road frontage, aesthetic regulations for buildings, landscaping, signs, lighting. It also deals with the issue of pedestrian connections between uses. So with the future land use map, so we have this old sand mine operation, but it is all designated on the future land use map, designated as commercial industrial. It's all part of a commercial industrial node for 53rd Street and US Highway 1. And you can see it all shown in red in this case. Again, bordered in North Relief Canal and bordered in the lateral H Canal for the north and west borders. And looking to the east, it's all commercial industrial going along US Highway 1, Old Dixie, and so forth. And to the north, you have L2 residential, and to the south, you have CI, commercial industrial, and to the west, L2 as well. Now, existing adjacent zoning, so here we have a visual showing the A1 zoning that's still present in this area, agricultural 1. We have IG zoning, which is actually at the westernmost border of the commercial industrial node as it stands now. To the north, we have RM4, residential multifamily, 4 units per acre. To the west is planned development. Once again, that's the Waterway Village development. To the south, you still have some A1 agricultural zoning along with some IG, general industrial zoning. And to the east, you have IG, industrial general. The proposed zoning map, so if this were to be approved as proposed, you have the CH. It was really proposed as a step down, kind of a zoning phases here, going from IG general industrial to commercial heavy to general commercial to the planned development to the west. And here's just an image showing the actual highlighted properties on their survey that they've provided. So I thought I'd just give you another visual here just to show you some of the dimensions. Property 1, which includes part of the CMEX operation right now, that area. It's approximately 500 feet of road frontage in the front there, approximately 880 for property 2 road frontage, and 203 road frontage for property number 3. Now with the rezoning request, there's always set criteria that are analyzed. We look at concurrency, consistency with the comprehensive plan, consistency with the county land development regulations. We look at the environmental impact. We look at the compatibility with surrounding uses. So in all cases for concurrency, we look at transportation, water, wastewater, solid waste, stormwater management. In all cases, these services are available. And as always, when you start to get into site development, that's when you do a detailed concurrency analysis review and get real specific. So with rezonings, we look at, and we ran into this recently when we talked about the Dollar General at the South County line and building square footage calculations. We talked about when you look at the commercial general, it's 20,000 square foot per acre. And in this case, for general industrial and heavy commercial, it's 10,000 square foot per acre. So this slide just shows that most intense use of the property for concurrency purposes, analysis. General industrial will be 122,600 square feet. Heavy commercial, 317,000 square foot. So total in that category, looking at the general industrial calculations, would be 439,600. And general commercial is 47,800. And just to put a visual, maybe just, for instance, the general commercial, 47,800 square foot building, that's just like the Publix just down the street from there. Publix is approximately 45,000, the Publix building itself, just the Publix. Now, consistency with the comprehensive plan, we look at various policies and various elements, but three most prominent ones that come to mind for our future land use element policy is 1.17, 1.18, and 1.43. And those deal with making sure that urban scale development is within our USA, the urban service area, that they're consistent with allowed, in this case, it's consistent with allowed CI land use designation. And for the subject properties, IG, CH, and CG, they're all appropriate given the location criteria of future land use element policy 1.43. And we'll go through those policies by zoning district. And this is included in the staff report. So subject property number 1, the one closest to the CMEX facility that's already existing, it's really part of that facility right now. The subject property number 1 is proposed general industrial zoning district. Review criteria number 1, along arterial roads and major intersections. Yes, the subject property butts 53rd Street to the south, which is an urban principal arterial roadway. And nearby to the east, 53rd Street intersects with US 1 and Old Dixie Highway. Criteria 2, along railroad tracks. Yes, it's within 300 feet of the railroad tracks. It's part of the CMEX plant. That property right to the east adjoins the railroad tracks. Near industrial areas, yes, it directly abuts that CMEX facility zoned area. And there's IG as well, zoning to the south. Separated from residential development by a major roadway or intervening property. So the subject property is over 1/4 mile away from the Waterway Village, nearest residential development. And separated from retail and office areas. So there are no retail or office areas adjacent to the subject property. There are retail uses east of the FEC Railway and Old Dixie Highway. Subject property 2, the larger portion of the rezoning request is proposed for commercial heavy. So there's 4 separate criteria for that, for this Planning and Zoning Commission to consider. One is along arterial roadways, so we've kind of hit that. That's the same criteria as before. And yes, it's along 53rd Street. Along railroad tracks, so once again, we're looking at a CMEX operation it's an overall larger property that's in this case, the property's next to the CMEX, it's next to the railroad tracks, it's all under one ownership right now. That's the main point here. Number 3, between general, commercial, and industrial areas. So as proposed in the rezoning application, the subject property 2 will be located between proposed general commercial, subject property 3, and general industrial, subject property 1 zoning districts. Number 4, separated from residential development. So subject property 3 is in between this property and also canal right of way and conservation area before you get to the Waterway Village residential area to the west. Subject property number 3, review criteria for going to commercial general zoning. So once again, along arterial roadways and major intersections, so it's along 53rd Street. Separated from residential development, so once again, lateral H canal and a conservation area are located to the west. Separated from industrial areas, so you would have the CH zoning just to the east before you would get to the industrial area. Near retail and office areas, so subject property 3 is located within the 53rd Street CI node where you have various retail and office uses located within the node. With respect to the consistency with the county land development regulations, rezoning request is consistent with all applicable sections of the county land development regulations, including section 902.12.3 standards of review. Regarding environmental impacts, impact is the same for current and proposed zoning. I am going to get a little more detail here just because it talks a little bit about the lake and some of the history that maybe didn't get into extensively in the staff report, but subject property 1 is partially developed, disturbed site currently being used partially by the CMEX facility. Subject property 2 contains the lake and associated vegetation related to the old Jenkins sand mining operation. Subject property 3 is a vegetated site. So whenever you're dealing with vegetation, you gotta look at the native trees and they'd be subject to the county tree protection requirements. Now with respect to the overall lake itself, there is on file an approved environmental resource permit for filling a portion of that lake. And I actually have a slide that shows that on next here. So this is part of their environmental resource permit. It shows roughly half of the property as surface water for the lake area. An area to be filled would be the southern half of all the properties going across along 53rd Street. So with that, there's no adverse environmental impacts on the rezoning. You're dealing with an old sand mining operation. They have the right to go ahead and fill at least part of that operation in currently. So so we're looking at, in this case, the compatibility, and to the north, RM4 is adjacent to North Relief Canal, so we mentioned that earlier. Didn't mention that it's between 150 and 250 foot of right-of-way. There's that existing golf course buffer. Buffer yard requirements are required when adjacent to zoning for residential multifamily. So no incompatibilities. To the east, you have an existing CMEX facility, so you have no incompatibilities, same property owner in this case. To the south, you have A1 and IG. It's adjacent to 53rd Street, which is 100, the right-of-way width varies in here, it's between 150 and 250 feet. There's the existing Titan Materials facility, very similar to the CMEX facility. You also have other quarter landscape and aesthetic requirements that would kick in, so no incompatibilities. To the west, you have the planned development, Waterway Village. It's adjacent to lateral H Canal, which has 135 to 140 foot right-of-way. You have a significant conservation buffer that exists with that development. There's no incompatibilities, and I'll show you that on this slide here. So the conservation area directly to the west, at least on the north side of 53rd Street, it's 29.61 acres in size. And to the south of 53rd Street, you can see the shape there, it's 18.06 acres in size. In conclusion, the requested IG, CH, and CG zoning are compatible with surrounding uses, consistent with the comprehensive plan, meets concurrency test, meets the criteria to be rezoned, no additional environmental impacts exist, and staff supports the request. With that, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the Board of County Commissioners approve the rezoning request from A1 to IG for subject property 1, A1 to CH for subject property 2, and from IG to CG for subject property 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions, gentlemen?
Somebody go before me.
Please go ahead, Alan.
Okay. Actually, first question is just a general informational thing. You mentioned that the A1 zoning inside the urban services area or service area is a holding pattern or holding zone. Is that actually stated any place, or is that just our practice?
I want to say it's more of our practice.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I'd never actually seen it in writing, but, okay, like I said, I wanted to
John
understand
McCoy
that.
with the County Planning Department, and let me just, and I think Bill's accurate, it's not stated, but there is kind of a reverse policy that says if you're inside the urban service area and you have a residential zoning district, you can't rezone to agricultural because it's not consistent with the underlying. So you can't go backwards once you're inside the urban service area and have a residential or a commercial designation. You can't go back to agricultural because it's not consistent with the underlying. So there's that policy in place. So it's looked at as going forward and as a placeholder in that respect.
Okay.
So you can't go backwards.
The actual question I have has to do with the North Relief Canal. Because I know when the North Relief Canal continues east, reaches the lagoon in what is called the Oyster Bar, and I'm sure there probably are other areas in the lagoon as marine life active as the Oyster Bar, but I don't know about them. The Oyster Bar is just covered in bait fish, predator fish, osprey, pelicans, you name it, spoonbills. They live in there. And I'm wondering, what are the, and I realize this is up ahead in the process, but what are the drainage requirements or laws, et cetera, with respect to, I don't know, channeling water off this site into the North Relief Canal? Is there an allowable use that they can dump stuff into the North Relief Canal that can go down into the lagoon and create its own environmental damage?
Once again, John McCoy with the County Planning Department. In Chapter 930 of the county's land development regulations are our stormwater criteria. There are several layers of standards that are met depending upon the location of the subject site. For sites that are in the Indian River Farms Water Control District, they're held to a 2-inch and 24-hour discharge rate. After that, they can discharge into the Indian River Farms Canal, and ultimately the North Relief Canal is part of that system, part of the Indian River Farms Water Control District system. It is their northern canal, so in discharging to others, there
But
is
discharge what?
discharge what essentially is considered to be treated stormwater. So you must retain it, treat it on site, and then you're able to discharge it at a certain rate for a certain period of time. And those are the calculations that the stormwater permits model. Not all of the property, especially once you get closer to US 1, is in the Indian River Farms Drainage District. Mostly it's property that's west of the railroad tracks that needed to be drained back in the day that is part of the Indian River Farms Water Control District. So for properties that are within a mile or a mile and a half of the Indian River Lagoon, they're held to a higher standard than are other similarly situated properties that aren't within the Indian River Farms, but are more than a mile or a mile and a half away from the Indian River Lagoon. So there's, I think basically it's 1.5 the volume of water that needs to be retained and treated, as opposed to just meeting the regular standard and the regular treatment and before discharge if you're not within a mile, mile and a half of the Indian River Lagoon and not within the Indian River Farms. And then on top of that, each applicant, once you have a fairly low threshold of development, is getting a permit through the St. Johns River Water Management District, which also looks at water quality. So I hope that answers the question.
Well, in a general sense. Somewhat connected to that, but you talked about the island in this water area that's going to be rezoned, containing a very active rookery. And you mentioned that county staff will try to work with the property owner to save that rookery. I'm assuming from what you say in the memo that if it's not able to save that rookery and the rookery just kind of dies and goes away, there's nothing in existing laws or code that creates the destruction of that rookery as a factor which would prohibit this rezoning. Am I correct in that?
I believe you're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything in the county land development regulations that would prohibit.
No, on the rezoning, it's, what was it? The rezoning would result in significant adverse impact on the natural environment. And I realize arguably you could maybe rationalize your way to that point, but at least on this thing, I think that rookery, its destruction is unfortunate, but it doesn't stand as a barrier to the rezoning, in my view anyways. But if you told me that there was drainage going down the North Main Relief Canal, and that was gonna destroy the oyster bar, and you add that to the rookery, then I'd start thinking about it, but.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Pluckowitz, if there would be any sort of discharge into the main relief canal, that would fall underneath the county's illicit discharge code provisions, and whatever entity is responsible for putting the illicit or illegal discharge into the North Relief Canal and then into the lagoon would be subject to prosecution, not only by the county, but also by St. John's and other entities as well. DEP, I think, could get involved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question, please. Yes, please. Regarding the filling of the lake as it stands, is there a limitation to that by any entity, or at their discretion to allow a certain amount of land?
Roland DuBois, Community Development Director. I think right now it's the Department of Environmental Protection permit that they have has a specific limitation to that graphic that was shown on the slide, which is essentially the southern half of it. Anything more than that would have to go through an amended process through the state and through the county.
Okay. Which leads to the question of the property that's to the south, because again, I'm always looking on the continuation of things, at least that's how some people would look at it. That property to the south, which is Ag 1 now, that could also potentially be rezoned and a lake filled in.
I think it's likely that it'll follow a similar track to this property. It's already also approved to have some filling, which I think is evident if you go by there that they're actively doing that.
Okay.
Any further questions?
How deep is the lake?
I didn't sit and read the 680 pages. And I'm not sure if the graphics actually show that information as well.
I think the applicant.
Yeah, the applicant has the answer to, so I'm gonna have them come forward.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, please.
Bruce Barquette. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. I don't have a definitive answer, but the lake, calling it a lake is sort of a misnomer. It's a sand mining pit. And as such, when it was permitted, it probably is no more than 18 feet deep, because I don't believe you guys issue permits for more than that, but I could be wrong. Roland will know the answer.
It could be deeper than that, from my experience.
Legally?
Yeah, they've been permitted past 30 feet. Some of them out there have been permitted up to 60 feet, so.
Okay, the ones I've been involved with have only been up to 18 feet. And I wanted to, Mr. Blackwood, I appreciate your concern about the rookery and the developer. We've already entered into an agreement with the county. I mean, it's not binding, but they understand, and we understand that there's going to be a conservation easement around that island for the rookery, and that's, nobody's objecting to that. We're fine with that.
Thank you.
And I don't know if there's any other questions. I've just stood up to offer one wrong answer and one right one. I can answer any questions. I've got representatives from CMEX here if you have any other questions.
I'm gonna wait till we open up the public hearing.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Bill?
I was just gonna add that in the early 2000s, I got my open water diving certification, and I believe in that lake, we did our first open water dive. So I know it was probably greater than 18 feet, but maybe, 25, maybe. Just 2004 timeframe I did that, so I'm just going off memory, but.
Thank you, Bill. Any further questions? None? At this time, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody would like to come forward and speak, please do.
Good evening. My name's Craig Lopes. I'm the CEO of the Moorings Club, Inc., which owns 300 acres, less than 300 feet of the CMEX plant, which is the Hawks Nest Golf Course. I'd like to see you table this until I can have some kind of dialogue with CMEX. We acquired the property at Hawks Nest in 2015. As a good neighbor, I personally went over to their plant multiple times, left my card, and asked them to get in touch with me. I emailed them. So since 2015, I have not got one reply. To the north of us is 160 acres, which GHO Homes owns. Reached out to them, they got in touch with me. We had great negotiations. They got approved for their development because we agreed on things that would protect my property. Again, I heard nothing from them. I would like to open up a dialogue, but I'd like to see you table this until I can, and we can discuss what they're going to do and how it's going to affect my property.
I appreciate it, sir, but that power is within them. I can't make those types of motions. Anybody else like to come forward and speak?
My name's Jeb Bittner. To follow up on Mr. Lopes' comments, there's a couple issues that a lot of the staff's reporting focused on the properties to the east, west, and south. And the Hawks Nest Golf Course, I think, if there's any golfers on the sitting in front of me, that Hawks Nest is a gem and one of the county's real assets. And we're concerned about the use. I understand this is zoning, so we're not into site plan types of uses, and that will come forward or will come at a later date. But it is now surface water, and there are some real questions we have about the hydrology that's going on. We just recently drilled a well to supplement the reuse water we're taking that is in the southwest corner, just within feet across the canal, and the filling of that lake, we don't know how that's going to impact the groundwater, and we'd like to see as part of the development of that property that there's a discussion about to understand what will happen. We've gone a long way to become an Audubon certified property, and we don't believe that an industrial use adjacent to it is compatible. It may meet the statutes written in the land use code, but we're concerned mostly on the uses that create noise and things that are not compatible with a golf course. Right now, unfortunately, the existing batch plant is quite noisy, and for most of the front nine of the golf course, during their busier days, it has a real negative impact, and to have that use expanded would have a negative impact on the golf course. Most of the corridor frontage issues that staff talked about, unfortunately, they only address the road frontage. And so at site plan or at the next step, what could be done to mitigate noise or negative impacts on the golf course would like to be discussed. And then again, I think the county and the Planning and Zoning Commission, it's always good when adjoining neighbors are on the same page and work together, and Hawks Nest would love to come up and support what they do, but unfortunately we've not had the ability to talk to them yet after multiple attempts to do so. So again, whether it is something that can be done procedurally, we would just ask that the issue be tabled until we, as an adjacent neighbor, could talk to them about what the longer term planned uses are and what ways we might be able to work together to support their project. So, thank you for listening.
Would anybody else like to come forward and speak? None? I'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen, any further questions? None? Can I have a motion? Okay, well, doesn't seem like we have a motion here. Can I have a motion with conditions, or? None. So procedurally, Bill, what do we do at the point when we can't get a motion either way?
I mean,
How about this? How about we make a motion to approve with a recommendation that the owner of the property and the golf course use their best efforts to get together and have a discussion about the future use of the property,
Sounds very,
about something like that.
okay, motion to approve by Mr. Polakowicz with a recommendation that the property owner and the adjacent Hawks Nest Golf Course Association get together and try to find a way to work something.
Let me add to that, prior to this matter coming to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval.
Prior to this,
We're only making a recommendation tonight to the board would have to make the decision.
prior to this matter going to the Indian River County Board of Commissioners. May I have a, yes, sir.
one question. Bruce, your client owns all three parcels? Okay.
And just to point out, my name's been on the record for more than a year on this project. They could have looked at the file and called me anytime. Never happened.
So that'd be terrific. Then you guys can get together at some point?
As soon as they call me, I'm happy to,
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate
yeah.
that.
And it would have happened anytime.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Next order of business, Commissioners' Matters. Do we have any? None? Planning matters?
Just to say, we do not plan on scheduling a planning and zoning commission meeting on January 9th. So the most likely next meeting would be on the 23rd of January.
Thank you, Roland. Appreciate that, sir. Do we have any attorneys' matters?
No, sir.
We are adjourned.